What we don't have is the required report to Congress. And while there's all of this debate about whether a citizenship question should be included or not included, the question I have is why are we violating the law to include any question whatsoever in the 2020 census?
I believe she's out of time, Chairman. But you, please do answer the question. I don't have any need to respond, sir. You don't have a need to respond? I have no need to respond. Okay, well, I'm asking. Could you answer that question, please? Would you repeat the question, please?
We are now in violation of the U.S. Census Act of 1974, which requires you to submit a specific report to Congress ahead of any changes that you find necessary. This question is not a reinstatement of the 1950 question. It's a change, which means that change requires you to send a report to us while the question is proposed, not before it is decided or settled. So my question is, why are we violating the law to include this question in the 2020?
Point of order. We need to, at this particular point, the gentlewoman is talking about a statute that's been violated. There's been no enunciation of what that statute is. I don't even know what she's talking about.
I'd be happy to provide it.
I think she laid it out pretty nicely. She said it twice. I'm serious. Give him.
But in previous testimony, Mr. Chairman, he said that they've submitted reports and
there are 3 reports required. They submitted the first one and the second one, but not the third one that is required to Congress. And this is here in U.S. Code, 13 U.S. Code section 141, Population and Other Census Information, subsection F3. And I'd be happy to provide that to you.
Now, I noticed that all your I guess those are attorneys back there squirming around telling you stuff. Can you tell, maybe they can help us with this answer. Did they tell you what the answer is to that? Got a lot of people back there.
I've been told by counsel that we have complied with all the regulations. I will take up with counsel the suggestions that have been made by the congressperson, and we will get back in due course on the record.
As a follow-up on that question, can you give me that in writing, the fact that you complied with the law?
And, Mr. Chair, I'd also like to note that according to our committee staff, there is not compliance with F3.
Well, he's going to give me, he said he did, so he's going to give me a statement. He's still sworn. He's going to give me a statement saying he did. So I'm looking forward to that statement.
Let's also talk about the Green New Deal. You know that I have challenged AOC to debate the Green New Deal. She sponsored this atrocious piece of basically destroy America's economy policy plan that she introduced back in 2018. You know, in 2018, when AOC introduced the Green New Deal, most of us thought it was a big joke. We laughed at it and didn't think there was any way possible for this type of policy to be passed. But make no mistake, the Green New Deal policies are being woven into nearly every single major piece of legislation that the Democrats are putting forward. And AOC herself just recently said that she's so proud of President Joe Biden because he is actually coming through and achieving what she wants him to achieve with her progressive views, which are really communist views, and what she wants to see with in regards to the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal will completely destroy America's oil industry, America's coal industry, and many other related industries. You see, it has high expectations to reduce carbon emissions down to zero. Joe Biden wants to cut net carbon emissions down in half by the year 2030. That's only 9 years away, everyone. But what did the president of China say? The president of China said in response to President Joe Biden that he would ramp up production in China, increasing net carbon emissions up until 2035 and maybe beyond. And then he would come up with a plan to work China's net carbon emissions down approximately around to zero around 2060. But yet our president, Joe Biden, says that he wants to reduce carbon emissions down to zero by 2050. 10 years before President Xi of China says that he would even get his down for China's down to 2060. There is a lot wrong there. You have America committing and wanting to make into law these radical approaches to industry and to our economy when the rest of the world has no plan to implement any program to do anything like it. Right now, America is on top in the world. President Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, AOC, the rest of the Democrats are going to plunge America down to the bottom. This is absolute America last policies. They have to be stopped. We can't allow these things to happen.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 19 minutes. 19 minutes. 4 years ago on Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2017, 19 minutes into President Trump's administration, at 12:19 p.m., the Washington Post headline was, "Campaign to impeach President Trump has begun." And now, with just 1 week left, they're still trying. In 7 days, there will be a peaceful transfer of power, just like there has been every other time in our country. But Democrats are going to impeach President Trump again. This doesn't unite the country. There's no way this helps the nation deal with the tragic and terrible events of last week that we all condemn. And Republicans have been consistent. We've condemned all the violence all the time. We condemned it last summer. We condemned it last week. We should be focused on bringing the nation together. Instead, Democrats are going to impeach the president for a second time 1 week before he leaves office. Why? Why? Politics and the fact that they want to cancel the president. The president who cut taxes, the president who reduced regulations, the president prior to COVID had the greatest economy, lowest unemployment in 50 years, the president who got us out of the Iran deal, put the embassy in Jerusalem, brought hostages home from North Korea, put 3 great justices on the Supreme Court, gave us a new NAFTA agreement, the Abraham Accords, the COVID vaccine, and who built the wall. It's about politics. This is about getting the President of the United States. They spied on his campaign before he was elected. 19 minutes into his presidency, they started the impeachment push. 3-year Mueller investigation, 19 lawyers, 40 agents, 500 witnesses, 2,500 subpoenas, $40 million to find nothing. Impeachment round 1 based on an anonymous whistleblower with no firsthand knowledge who was biased against the president and who worked for Joe Biden. And now it's impeachment round 2. It's always been about getting the president no matter what. It's an obsession that is now broadened. It's not just about impeachment anymore, it's about canceling, as I've said. Canceling the president and anyone that disagrees with them. The Ayatollah can tweet, the president can't. Democrats can object on January 6, 2017, but Republicans aren't allowed to object on January 6, 2021. Democrats say Antifa is a myth. Republicans condemn all violence all the time. The double standard has to stop. And frankly, the attack on the First Amendment has to stop. And stop and think about it. Do you have a functioning First Amendment when the cancel culture only allows one side to talk? When you can't even have a debate in this country, this great country, the greatest country ever? It needs to stop, because if it continues, it won't just be Republicans who get canceled. It won't just be the President of the United States. The cancel culture will come for us all. Right. America's a great country, the greatest country ever. It seems to me that we need to think about how great the people of this nation really are. Think about what we've accomplished in the past and begin to come together as leaders who represent so many great folks across our districts. Think about this. Think about this. In 1903, in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, 2 guys fly this thing they called a plane 100 feet. Barely got off the ground. Barely got off the ground. Amazing thing. 44 years later, Chuck Yeager breaks the sound barrier. In 44 years, we go from 2 guys flying a contraption they called a plane a few hundred feet to Chuck Yeager breaking the sound barrier. And 22 years after that, another American steps on the moon. Think about it. In one lifetime, in 66 years, 2 guys flying 100 feet to putting a man on the moon. That's what this country is capable of. That's what we can do. And we as the Congress who represent the people who did that should start leading. Should start understanding what really is going on here. So I hope we defeat this. I hope we can begin to come together and recognize the greatness of the American people and focus on the things they want us to focus on. I yield back our time.
If you want the Attorney General to come, at least let him answer the questions and the accusations made against him.
The gentleman's rudeness is not recognized.
Rudeness?
Rudeness is on the other side.
Mr. Stanton,
time after time, you refuse to let the Attorney General of the United States answer the questions.
I'd like to know from you, how many of these March block sales were investigated?
I sent out a directive that we should start prosecuting to the extent we can these lie and try cases. Previously, we hadn't really been pursuing them.
Okay, so I take that as a no. I just have one
no,
more
I'm saying we are pursuing those cases.
My time is up. I take that as a no. Unfortunately, this fits a larger pattern of your administration neglecting the health and safety of Americans. From health care to gun violence, this administration is failing to keep my constituents and people all over the country healthy and safe. I demand better. Americans demand better. I want you to provide the answers that you are either unwilling to provide us or don't have answers to this committee, because these are relevant questions and we need to have answers from you. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. John, you got a question.
For what purpose? For what purpose does the gentleman seek?
For months, you've tried to get the Attorney General to come. He's here. Why don't you let him speak? Why don't you let him answer the questions?
The gentleman is not.
Time after time. If you want the Attorney General to come, at least let him answer the questions and the accusations made against him.
The gentleman's rudeness is not recognized.
Rudeness?
Rudeness is on the other side.
Mr. Stanton,
time after time, you refuse to let the Attorney General of the United States answer the questions posed to him.
Mr. Stanton is recognized.
Well, maybe the last few witnesses will actually let the Attorney General speak.
Attorney General, if in this upcoming November election, the President asks you to intervene and try to stop states from counting legal ballots after Election Day, will you do the right thing and refuse? Yes or no?
I will follow the law.
You won't say no, sir?
I'll follow the law.
It's very disappointing.
If a state has a law that says it has to be cast on Election Day, that's the law.
Will you commit to making sure the Department of Justice does not get involved in a contested election? Yes or no?
I will follow the law.
It is so disappointing that we can't get a clear answer on that. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to submit for the record the following items. An item from The Guardian magazine, an embarrassment. Trump's Justice Department goes quiet on voting rights. Second, New York Times magazine, William Barr's state of emergency. Finally, from the Washington Post, Trump's assault on the election integrity forces question, what would happen if he refused to accept the loss?
Without objection, the material will be based.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record.
Without objection.
A member of the Judiciary Committee, following the law,
without objection,
should be something a member of the Judiciary Committee knows is pretty darn clear.
The gentleman will suspend. Without objection, the material will be entered into the record. Ms. Dean is recognized.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, could we take a 5-minute break?
Dean is recognized.
Could we take a 5-minute break, Mr. Chairman?
No.
That's a common courtesy, Mr. Chairman, of every witness.
I waited an hour for you this morning. I haven't had lunch. I'd like to take a 5-minute break.
Mr. Attorney General, we are almost finished. We're going to be finished in a few minutes. Otherwise, we can certainly take a break. But
you're real class.
Well, okay. Yeah. After this, if you still want, we'll have a break.
No, he wants a break now.
You want it now?
And you just mentioned rudeness. I think we're seeing it on display. Let's let the Attorney General have a break.
The committee will stand in recess now.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.